We're so often conditioned to think of evil, or act in these huge theatrical terms.
Right, supervillain.
Exactly. The massive failure, the big betrayal that changes history. But what if, and this is what the source material suggests, what if the deepest roots of what's holding us back, what prevents our success, is rooted in something way more mundane, like just a simple lack of common reverence?
That is precisely our starting point for this deep dive. We're going into teachings focused on cultivation, on right view, and we're pulling from these dialogues between a master and his disciples.
So what's the mission here?
The mission is to fundamentally reevaluate how we define evil and good, and to really unpack this startling claim that placing yourself as smaller than the smallest is the single greatest strategic advantage you can have in life.
Okay, so the sources lay out a kind of foundational path for self-improvement, spiritual or even just practical.
They do.
And it seems to begin with the master's insistence on daily practice, this hui hing fat win.
This is the bedrock. It really is. Think of it like daily maintenance on your most valuable piece of equipment. And this practice, it's not just, wishing for good things.
It's active.
It's very active. It's a focus on eliminating the three obstacles, the chewing guy.
And those are?
Karma, warnings, and your own internal afflictions. And you do this for yourself and for others.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
The master is, he's totally unequivocal on this.
So if you skip this.
If you skip this daily clearing, this building of virtue, he says, you cannot succeed in teaching or guiding. You lack the foundation. You lack the internal connection to be accepted by others or even by destiny itself.
So it's not enough to be smart. You have to be, for lack of a better word, clean.
That's a great way to put it.
But if this practice is meant to get rid of affliction, we have to find the source. Where does the root of this evil actually lie?
It's consistently defined as one thing, the mind, the tum.
Yeah.
There's a foundational text to the Thung Luen that draws this absolutely core distinction. It says, Hotam ni akchi ak, vupa mi akchi kwa.
All right, let's break that down.
It's simple, really. Having the intention to do wrong, that's evil. Ak, doing wrong without intention. That's just a mistake. Lowy.
So intent. Intent is the dividing line.
Intent is everything. The mind, the tam, is the root of everything you put out into the world.
That makes perfect philosophical sense. But then the source material takes this this pretty jarring leap from that definition.
It does.
They connect this internal idea of evil to something totally external, ugliness.
And this is where the context of these ancient teachings is so vital. Within a framework called the six extremities, or lukak, evil is also defined as ugliness.
Wait, ugliness? That sounds like a massive ethical judgment based on someone's looks.
And it would be if it were about genetics. But it's not. It's a judgment on conduct. Another text, the Ngi Han Troi, states that ugliness is the punishment for the appearance lacking reverence.
Okay, I think I see where this is going.
So the synthesis is that evil conduct, or akkan, is any external expression, your demeanor, your gestures, your speech, your whole attitude, that fails to show respect, that fails to show reverence, what they call butkungkin.
So a lack of reverence is the external look of evil. That's what manifests as an unattractive or repellent presence.
That's the argument. Poor manners, arrogance, talking over people, these aren't just social blunders.
They're literally categorized as a manifestation of self-centered evil.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, if that's the bar, then we need to spend some real time defining the opposite. What is true humility? What does kungkin actually mean?
Let's unpack the concept, and we could do it using the Chinese character for reverence, which is or kung. Visually, it's made up of the character for together, or okal, that's all, kong, and the character for small, tiu, plus a tiny extra dot.
So the visual metaphor is basically small under all.
Yes, but the master says the radical part is that final dot. The core principle of reverence is genuinely placing yourself as the smallest among all people. Even, he says, smaller than the smallest.
Smaller than the smallest. What does that mean in practice?
It means you approach every single person, no matter their station, no matter their capability, with the assumption that you have something to learn from them. It's an internal posture, not a performance.
Doesn't that feel incredibly vulnerable, especially in, a competitive world? If I put myself below everyone, won't people just walk all over me, see me as weak?
And that is the modern misconception the source material is trying to dismantle. True reverence isn't external submission. It's an internal cultivation practice, so it actually transcends social status.
Can you give an example?
Think about the Empress. She's the greatest, most powerful woman in the entire realm. Yet before the emperor, she addresses herself as Thiep, a term of incredible humility. It basically means maidservant.
So she's defining her role in that specific interaction based on reverence, not her actual power.
Precisely. And it's not just a word she says. It's a position that has to be held internally and externally. In her attitude, her expression, her words, her movement, she maintains her power because she chooses to cultivate the cause of humility, not demand the result of respect.
Okay, let's talk cause and effect. The universal law, karma. What's the ultimate payoff for practicing this kính towards everyone?
Well, the outcome is seen as inevitable. If you practice profound reverence, you are practicing thing, or good. And the law dictates that in the future, everyone will be reverent toward you.
That's the result, the kwabao.
The inevitable result. And conversely, if you practice batkung, lack of reverence, self-exaltation, arrogance, you're practicing what they call great evil, elak.
And the result of that?
People will disrespect you. They'll dismiss you or use you, even if they need your talent. Your behavior literally determines how you will be treated in the future.
This leads right into the danger of what the texts call wrong view or kính. There's this disciple they highlight who just perfectly embodies this flaw.
Right, the one who identifies as one of the 4 great evildoers.
Yeah, why? Because they're always focused on putting the character 4 great above all together. They define themselves as superior. Come on.
And that self-exaltation, the master explains, it's just rooted in ignorance. It's delusion. And it leads to this pitiable position where you just can't get along with anyone.
But there's a deeper mistake, right? One that they say guarantees failure.
The most critical one is how you define your own role in anything you do. It's this whole definition of being the host versus being the guest.
I think this is probably the most counterintuitive idea here, especially for anyone in a professional setting. So how do we explain this host-guest thing simply?
Okay, so if you define your work as something you are doing for others, for example, I'm working for the school, or I'm working for this company.
Which is how most people think.
It's how most people think. But in doing that, you are identifying as a guest, a kash. And this definition means you implicitly believe the work is transient, it's temporary, and fundamentally, it's not related to me.
And what's the consequence when you take that guest view towards your job or your family or your community?
The consequence is, well, it's self-destruction.
Right.
If you define the world as not related to you, the world treats you as not related to it. You become disconnected, unwelcome everywhere.
Wow.
Philosophically, you essentially define yourself out of existence. You arrive at this tragic state they call chat kung kot chon kut dying without a burial. Because you've created no connection, no root. You've made yourself superfluous.
That is a very stark outcome for what starts as just a simple mental frame.
It is.
So the right view, that Chan Tri Kien, has to be the exact opposite.
Exactly.
You define the work as your own responsibility, your own chance for self-cultivation. So when you're the host, the chut, everyone who's helping is actually assisting you on your personal journey.
Precisely. The school, the job, the family, they're just the field. The place where you cultivate your own behavior. And that shifts the whole motivation from external validation to internal refinement.
Let's ground this. Let's use the case study of that successful research dean the master talks about.
Good idea.
This person has a powerful position, but he's described as profoundly humble, meticulously prepared, spends a week getting ready for one lesson, films for months, and crucially, he treats everyone, even the difficult, uncommunicative students, with deep respect, kung kin saute, and a constant smile.
And he succeeds. He gets promoted constantly. Not because he's trying to impress his employer, but because he doesn't believe he is working for the school. He believes he's working for himself.
Cultivating virtue, ren liyint then.
Exactly. And that right view makes him truly valuable, indispensable. The school can't afford to lose him because his success is self-generated. It doesn't depend on them.
Now, contrast that with the student who has the wrong view.
A total opposite.
Their parents taught them this takian, this wrong view of never let others look down on you.
Focusing only on the result, being respected, and completely ignoring the cause.
Which is humble action.
Right. They're afraid that humbling themselves will make them a servant, a no-tie. But by refusing to plant the cause, they block the result from ever happening. They end up being unwanted.
And they're literally told, go quickly, don't delay a second.
They were trying so hard to be great, but they just end up being irrelevant. The master really stresses this. Focusing only on the result without cultivating the cause is a fatal flaw. It guarantees you will always fail.
It sounds like the absolute most fundamental thing you have to fix to change your life's path to Cayman is that initial view, the Chantrikin.
It's the seed of everything else.
So if we have this new, probably fragile right view, how do we protect it from, the chaotic world out there?
We use protective measures, and the most powerful one they introduce is 2E. It means rejoicing in merits.
Okay, what is that?
It's when you see the excellent virtue and success in others, their tanggatuustang, and you genuinely rejoice in it. When you do that, you literally take a portion of that merit back for yourself.
Okay, that sounds a little bit like magical thinking, but let's break down the mechanism. Why is rejoicing in someone else's wins so potent?
Because it is the direct antidote to the garbage collector mindset.
The garbage collector mindset, I like that.
But first, a really important caveat. Rejoicing in merits grants you the reward, the fuk bao. So that means the positive consequences, money, opportunities, good fortune.
Right.
But it does not grant you the actual skill, the nong luck, or the wisdom, the tritut. You can't become a brilliant pianist just by cheering for one, but you might attract the resources to afford the lessons.
So you still have to do the work.
You absolutely still have to do the work yourself.
That is such an important distinction. Okay, now let's talk about that danger you mentioned, the garbage collector.
This is the mind that is constantly looking for faults in other people. If you spend your time focused on the flaws, the diseases, the uselessness of others, you are literally collecting all of those negative qualities into yourself.
You're training your perception to see decay.
You are. You become the person who has aggregated all the weaknesses and defects of the world. You become, as the text says, the person who is not good in the world.
So we confirm our own toxicity by obsessing over the toxicity of others. The dean's success wasn't just his own hard work.
No.
It was his active refusal to be a garbage collector when he was dealing with those difficult students.
Precisely. The protective action is to maintain your own standard no matter how others behave. You have to draw a firm line and say, I will not become cheap because of you. You have to constantly work to keep your mind pure, your reverence intact, and refuse to let the bad behavior, the akhan of others, drag you down to their level.
So it all circles back to the foundation. Nurturing that seed of right view, the Tan Trikian.
That seed is everything. It has to be constantly guarded, nourished, observed soirai no bovano, every single day. If you protect that seed, it grows roots, and it will naturally yield right thought, right speech, right action.
But if the initial view is off,
if the initial view, the way you define yourself and your relationship to the world is incorrect, then all your subsequent efforts, all your actions are fundamentally meaningless.
Yeah.
They're growing from poisoned soil.
This whole deep dive has really shifted the definition of success for me. True self-interest, as the master shows us, lies completely in self-cultivation through this radical humility.
Yeah.
When you define yourself as the owner, the host of your personal journey, every single opportunity, even serving other people, becomes a chance to polish yourself into something valuable.
The contrast couldn't be clear. You're either refining yourself into a precious jewel, a resource everyone wants to protect and keep, like that dean,
Or
you're confirming your own low self-definition through arrogance and disrespect, and you become something others want to discard. Like that student who gets defined as the bug that is quickly cleaned away.
the sources really emphasize that while true, enlightened masters might eventually get to a state where they're immune to pollution, most of us aren't there. We're in a dangerous world full of negative influences that are constantly trying to corrupt that new seed of right view.
That's right.
So if your goal is to truly change your life's path, to change your destiny, the question to ask yourself is, how actively and how diligently are you guarding and nourishing that fragile, newly planted seed of your Chantrikin every single day before the chaos of the world or your own arrogance eats it?